farm-related commodities are the best classes to insure from an auto perspective.
You're listening to the BulkLoads podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking. And this is episode 245.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn with the BulkLoads podcast. Tyler's in here with me.
What's going on?
Tyler, I really enjoyed this episode that our listeners are going to listen to. I think I don't know if anybody, and I'd like to search, but has ever done a podcast with an insurance underwriter.
I definitely have not seen one out there.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe people talking about why would you do that? But like for me, in anything we do in business and people we interact with, like we want to learn their processes because we're going to get better from that. Yep. So when you guys might think this was odd, but like when we started Bulk Insurance Group and we got Tom's company on Continental Western, for me, it was like, I want to learn more about their company, but more importantly, like I want to learn from an underwriter, like what are they looking at when they're determining the premiums? Because the underwriter is the one that's going to say this is going to be the price that trucking company is going to pay. So you as business owners out there, I thought this would be just absolute gold to bring to you to say, hey, here's what they do in order to get your premium. And if you want a lower premium, which who doesn't want a lower premium? If you want less to pay, what do we need to do to improve? Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a guarantee or anything like that, but if we can look at, hey, here's the processes of when an underwriter is quoting insurance, and if there's improvement that we can do on our end or educate our truckers, like, man, everybody's going to win from this.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm super excited.
It just provides so much clarity because I'm sure, it's one of those things. If one guy has one question out there, everyone has the same question. So whenever you're listening to this podcast, if you do have a question that Tom didn't cover, definitely reach out to us, let us know, and we can put you in contact with Tom so he can help you out.
Yep. So again, this episode is with Tom Beenken of Continental Western. They've been a great partner for us for our bulk insurance group. Their big business is they love the agriculture market, which Tom's going to talk about, and they're very Midwest focused. And we just thought, man, they'd be an excellent partner for ours to help grow our business and grow with them. So with that said, here's my conversation with Tom Beenken of Continental Western. Hey, Tom, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a first ever for us. We've had insurance companies on over the past 4 or 5 years, speaking of, but we've never had an actual underwriter on. And the goal really was to really kind of to give information to our carriers to kind of really think about what underwriters do, more importantly, and really how we can all benefit from this. Again, trucking companies, they don't want higher premiums. I'm pretty sure underwriters, they don't want to try to write higher premiums, so we're trying to figure out, hey, how do we work collectively as an industry to really, and I should say, to provide affordable coverage for our trucking companies. So that's kind of the focal point that we want to go. Tom, I got to ask more, and this is probably not directly related. How did you end up as an insurance underwriter?
The question gets asked every once in a while, and I'm going to be one of the weird geeks in a group. I actually wanted to go into insurance. I have a uncle that I looked up to that is a retired vice president of underwriting for an insurance company in Wisconsin. And so I just thought it'd be really cool to do this. So I've got a major in insurance and finance from Minnesota State University.
So like in college, you had the interest of really going into underwriting.
Correct. That was under the insurance major. That was the typical one that people would go into, is the underwriting side of it versus claims.
And you may or may not know this question. Like today, is there a high demand for underwriters? I mean, is there a position that's hard to fill across the country?
In today's world, the employee is controlling the transaction. There just isn't as many people out in the workforce. And so from reading and hearing stories, there's a huge demand right now for underwriters.
Okay. Well, let's get into the weeds on this a little bit in detail. And I want to kind of really walk through the process of kind of how a premium gets written. You know, I think some trucking companies think, oh, it just goes to the agency and then they type in some stuff and spits out a number to use. Obviously, there's so much more in depth that goes on with that. But if you can just walk through the process for us, just kind of high level, how does that work when a trucking company is wanting to get a quote on a policy or renew a policy?
Yep.
Walk us through kind of how that works from A to Z.
Okay. So the way I'm taking this, I'm going to describe the underwriting process, what we go through. So the majority of the time we'll receive an application from an agent. And what I'll do is I'll take a quick glance at everything in it. And I'll get a feel towards, does anything pop out that it's like, no, I won't be able to do this because of this example. The next thing I end up doing is going into a report called the CAB report, which stands for Central Analysis Bureau Report. It's become the Bible of the transportation industry. So what they end up doing is taking information from the SAFER and putting it into their own information database and then end up selling it to the marketplace. The next thing that I'll do is I'll look at the loss runs. I'll look for trends such as, is there a driver involved in more than one accident? Their claim outside the radius, or they're reporting claims in a timely manner? And most importantly, is the risk profitable based off of the number of trucks that they have?
And if I can ask, on the loss report, that's something that is provided from the previous insurance company that
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
is that the only
So there's
place
a
that they
requirement to get 3 years of, at minimum of 3 years of loss runs on every submission.
Okay.
So then the next thing I'll do is I'll jump into the mileage sheets and I'll break them down and I'll look at states that they're traveling to, get an idea of the cities by looking at the application, and just see if it's something that fits our appetite of what we do in the trucking arena. Then I'll also look at the driver's list, the MVR quality. I'll look for, are they experienced? Do they have an acceptable driver age? Is the quality of the MVR acceptable, et cetera, et cetera. The next thing, I'll look at the value of the equipment. What's the age? What's the value? Is it something that I can quote? You know, you don't want to write something really old. You'll see a lot of insurance companies back off of equipment that's 20 to 30 years old.
Okay.
Then probably the last thing to me that's important is, when you're looking at the app, the most important question, in my personal opinion, is, are all units that are owned, hired, leased, rented, or borrowed, are they on that submission? And that's important because when you're dealing with motor carrier / truckers, they'll need a filing or an MCS 90 endorsement. And you got to make sure that you're insuring all that equipment, because the insurance company is ultimately going to be responsible because of the filing and MCS 90 endorsement.
So when you're going through this process, and you already mentioned the thing, one thing you're hoping to not see older equipment. That could be something you don't want to quote. But what are some other not so positive or negative things when going through this that might detour your way from actually quoting a submission?
Okay, sure. I would say the combination from my perspective that I see is I'll look at the CAB report, and there'll be some issues, concerns there where they'll have too many alerts, too many equipment violations or driver violations based off the size of the risk in the rest of the industry. Another thing is that the claim activity has been poor. So I figure, hey, I'm going to charge about this amount for the account. Has that risk been profitable over the last 3 years? And then the last one is the quality of the MVRs. We'll throw it out every once in a while. But I'd say it's those 3 items that the majority of the time, that when I have to pass or decline on a risk, it's those issues.
Technology is really starting to get more involved, especially in insurance and reporting. how have you seen that when it comes to being an underwriter in a positive way? I mean, it seems like there's a lot more things done electronically now, a lot more data that can be captured. Is that something that you all, has that actually increased or been favorable to you all when quoting premiums?
Yes, it's something that we strive for big time. Probably one of the biggest things that I think truckers can do to be advantageous to themselves and to also any insurance company they go to is be up to date with the technology. And what I'm talking about there is get outward looking cameras to avoid any type of claim. So you've got that extra layer of defense that when the claim adjuster says, hey, what do you have? Tell me your story, that the camera can verify that information. The other thing is just ELD devices, electronic logging devices. I know a lot of these drivers are turned off on it because they think Big Brother's watching. But what we're doing in today's society is the industry is being picked on by plaintiff lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of large nuclear verdict type claims. And I think the more the truckers and the insurance companies can bond together to help combat those plaintiff lawyers throwing these large suits at us, the better off we'll be.
We deal with a lot of grain and feed haulers, hopper bottom trucking companies.
Yep.
A lot of these guys, they run kind of more regional, in Midwest areas. I want to talk just on hiring practices, because obviously, and maybe you can or speak a little bit about this, but do you actually look at the actual drivers that are under the policy as well, and ages and all that?
Do I look at the drivers, did you say?
Yeah. Like the drivers of the vehicles?
Yes. Good question. We have a philosophy of belief. We don't insure trucks, we insure drivers.
Oh, yeah. That's
Our mentality is that somewhere around 88% of all claims are a result of the driver failing to take action or the action that they took. So you can see that it's important to hone in on the older, experienced drivers. And what I mean by that is we want drivers preferably to be between the ages of 26 to 65. Of course, there'll always be some exceptions made, and they're dependent upon the quality of the risk. And then no more than 3 violations over a 3-year time period.
And those violations, just motor vehicle violations, is that right?
The majority of the time, correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you speak on a little bit, because a lot of these trucking companies out there, they want to make sure they're hiring the right guys. Can you give maybe just in your opinion things that trucking companies should be looking for in drivers out there, to make sure they're putting the right people in the seats? Again, you're insuring the drivers. Yep. How do you find those guys, the right people to put in the seats? I know you talked about ages, but what other characteristics or what other things should companies be looking at when they're qualifying drivers?
It's somewhat hard to answer that question being in my position that I do, but from reading and just doing this for 30 plus years, I think some of the keys are between the age and the quality of the MVR. That probably takes care of a high majority of the issues that insurance companies want to look at. But I also think what's important is when the insured sits down with a driver and they decide to hire him or not, get a read for that individual driver's aggressive nature, their personality, and that's going to tell you a lot.
This is kind of my final question, and we'll kind of see where this segues in. But Tom, overall, you're a veteran in the industry, if you don't mind me saying that. How many years have you been doing this?
36 years.
Yep. So just overall big picture, that the companies that you see that have done very well from a safety, compliance, insurance standpoint versus not, though, tell us what are those similarities that you've seen about those companies, the ones that have been really good to insure maybe versus the ones, not so favorable? Like, what are some of those common trends? We've spoken on some, but I'm just thinking high level. I mean, I'd love to know, how many policies have you quoted over your lifetime? I mean, I'm sure it's got to be thousands and upon thousands.
Sure. Yeah.
But so you've looked at a lot of companies, a lot of data. Man, I think you're just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to like those companies that you've seen have done very, very well, protecting themselves and in insurance wise, having low claims versus the ones not so much. Kind of give us those, your wisdom there.
So the way I'm taking your question is, what are the key account characteristics that you're looking for in a high quality risk? Okay.
Yeah.
To me, I look at the frequency, and what we end up doing is running it through a formula, and we're looking for a certain level. Also look at the financials. We run credit reports, and is it above that certain parameter? It's been proven many times both those traits are huge indicators of success going forward. You also look at the loss ratio, the frequency of claim activity. You look at the age of equipment and the age of the drivers. And what you want is equipment 20 years and under, and drivers preferably between 26 to 65 with 3 years of experience. You also look at the management, their background. How long have they been in business? Do they have a long track record? So look at the MVR quality. You look at driver retention is a big deal. There's been studies done that the longer a driver's with that particular account, there's a lower possibility of that individual being involved in an accident. And then you also look at the cab report that I mentioned and the overall quality of it. And then you look at the individual cargo being carried. There are certain classes that are more accident prone than others.
I didn't have the pleasure. I think you were sick last fall when Larry and myself came up to Continental and met the team up there. And I look forward to, I think we're going to soon meet in person, which I'm excited about. But I just want to say, man, I think one thing I love that we've been able to do business with you all, just because you guys seem to have a big passion with agriculture and farming. I think, the bigger company, you do a lot in the ag space and all that. Can you just speak a little bit about that and kind of I would assume that you're pro ag and pro farming and trucking like the rest of us are here.
Yes. We are big time at Continental Western. Our mentality is that the bulk, the grain, the farm related commodities are the best classes to insure from an auto perspective. We also have Continental Western Ag.
Yep.
So that tells you that our owners are interested enough that we dedicate funds specifically towards ag related carriers.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, Tom, that's all the questions I got today. Hey, I have, like I said, I've enjoyed this. It's, again, what I said at the very beginning, I love kind of getting a little bit more in depth about, kind of the other side. So, when we're working with people, like, hey, we have to know, hey, how are these processes done so we can make better decisions on our end, whether it's a trucking company trying to make sure that they're getting affordable, good coverage, that they can stay in business and provide those services. Us as a company that we can help make those transactions and introduce those parties to companies like yours. So, man, I just want to say thank you so much for the relationship. And again, look forward to meeting you soon.
Sounds good, Jared. I really appreciate you inviting me on and doing this.
What'd you think, Tyler?
I thought it was really good. Like I said at the beginning, it just provides so much clarity, and there's such a great partner. I know Larry's been leading the way with the insurance team over there, and we've had a ton of clients that we put with Continental West and Tom. They've just been so happy.
And some of our customers have mentioned that their customer service is impeccable.
Yeah.
And one customer I remember specifically, they were with another company, and then we got them switched to Continental. And they say, I mean, it's been incredible just how great they are of a company to do with. And again, I think that's one of the most important things with insurance. Like, hey, we all have to pay insurance, but what really matters is how you're treated and how the customer service is and the way you're dealt with that. So,
yeah.
But I think one thing a lot of what we talked was pretty high level because every situation is different and Tom can't speak in specifics about that. But I loved kind of towards, the middle of the end, he was talking about like they're in the business of insuring drivers, not trucks, I mean, and you got to think about that, as a business owner out there, hey, you really got to make sure that you're vetting and hiring the right people for your team. Then it's different, but BulkLoads, we think about that. Like, we want to bring people in here that are representative of our company, that trustworthy, they're safe. And we know it's hard out there to find truck drivers out there, but man, you got to make sure you're bringing the right people on your team.
Yeah, I agree. I think we mesh so well with them with the whole, first off, the people serving people model that they represent.
Yep.
But also just because they're in the ag space, they know the ag space, and that's where we really have a great partner with them.
Yeah. So again, Continental Western, they've been a great partner for bulk insurance. And just, while we're here, hey, we know everybody out there has to have insurance. Renewals are coming at different times. We know some companies we hear, hey, we've been good where we're at. We're not interested. My only ask, we would love for you to show us how we can make a difference, how our service can be better. So if you're listening to this right now, and maybe your insurance maybe it's just renewed, or it's 6-7 months out, man, we would love to speak with you. Reach out to Larry and his team at Bulk Insurance Group. You can go to the BulkLoads website. It's on our app. Tyler will put the information in the show notes on here, but we would love to talk to you and really prove how well we can serve you in the insurance space.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to kind of touch on with the insurance, a lot of our clients that we're helping out, we're noticing that they have a lot of the same coverage, or they have coverages that kind of duplicate each other and cover the same thing. And whenever our producers talk with them, they're realizing that they have too much coverage, and they're able to go in and save those guys money.
Yep.
For instance, we made a post on social media about it, but some truckers are running into, they have non-owned physical damage coverage and trailer interchange coverage. Well, at the end of the day, those coverages pretty much cover the same thing. So if you have that in your policy, definitely give us a call so we can work on that, and we can help you out, and we can save you some money there.
And I'll say every situation is different, so you can't put everyone in a bucket. But if you want to review your policy, give us a call. Let us look at it. We'll do the research. We're not going to try to upsell you or sell you different, but let us look at it and make sure that you're getting the right coverage at the right price for what you need. And I think that's what really matters when it comes to it. So cool. Well, thank you as always for listening to the BulkLoads podcast. Hey, if you got friends or other coworkers, people in the industry that you think can value from this, please share that. We would appreciate that so much. Also, man, would love for you to give us a review just to let us know how we're doing out there in the space. Also, if you ever have comments, man, would love for you to email us with maybe ideas that you have, other things that you want to listen to as well. That way we can get it out there, because if you're wanting to see more, we know others are probably wanting to see the same thing. So thank you very much, and God bless.